This episode is sponsored by Relogic Research. Relogic is an engineering, aerospace, and technology company dedicated to solving our nation's toughest defense problems while investing in the bright minds of Huntsville. Relogic is excited to be a part of the innovation and continued growth of the Huntsville community. Visit their website today to see what they are excited about at relogicresearch.com, and all of this information will be in the episode notes.
This is Chandler Wicks, founder and CEO of Relogic Research. We are very excited to partner with Beyond Rockets in further support of their already outstanding contribution to the Huntsville community.
Well, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be back.
I know, I'm excited. I think the first time we had you on, you had a few less concepts than you do now, but we're excited to kind of talk a little bit about it. But before we get started, do you just want to introduce yourself and we'll kind of get started there?
Absolutely. Stephanie Kennedy-Mell, owner of Church Street Family Hospitality.
Yeah. So for those that maybe don't know you, how would, if someone asked you what you do for a living, what would you say? How would you describe the work that you do? That's
so funny because when people ask, I always say, I pour wine for a living.
Okay.
Like, oh, you pour wine? Yeah, I pour wine for a living. Obviously, we do a little bit more than that, but that's kind of our roots, where we kind of started pouring wine for a living. And I guess the technical term would be restaurateur.
Okay.
And so I always tell my managers and my restaurants, I'm restaurant support.
Okay.
I am here for you. What do you need to be successful?
Yeah.
And we do talk to each of our managers like they own the place. You know, what do you need? How are your employees? What's going on in your space? How are your customers? And so they have that sense of ownership, which is always really nice. And then restaurant support. What can I do for you? Oh, I need more water glasses, and I want different dishes, and we're going to add this to the menu. And so I kind of do menu redesign. I do non-consumables.
Okay.
As far as that goes, Matt does more front of house training, hiring, and he does all the alcohol purchasing. Okay. So I do more of the non-consumables, but catering, HR, the less fun stuff as well.
The stuff that has to get done for the boat to still be afloat, but then the average consumer probably doesn't see it too much.
Correct.
So and talk a little bit about how this, like, how did the being a restaurateur, how did this like start? Like, obviously it was Church Street Wine Shop. When did you kind of dive into this, and how did this idea for the Church Street Wine Shop initially get started?
So we moved to Huntsville in 2011. My husband grew up in Scottsboro, so originally from Alabama, but Huntsville in 2011. We did not open the wine shop till 2014.
Okay.
So we took our time kind of working in the community. I worked with nonprofits. But we did notice this niche that was just missing, and said, there's no place for people to get together with their significant other and unpack their day. And you could go to a restaurant and have a wonderful glass of wine, but they want you to eat and they want you to leave. Yeah. And we moved here from Southern California.
Yeah, and wine shops are probably everywhere.
Yes, and wine shops are everywhere.
Every other corner was a wine shop, lots of variety, tapas, like stuff like that. And you come here and there's nothing. And really, like, I would assume, I mean, growing up here, Huntsville's changed so much over the last few years. But even from opening the wine shop in 2014, I mean, for the next couple of years, really, it was just y'all. Like, there was no other, not necessarily competitor, but there was no other a business in that same market for a long time.
Correct. I think we were the first new thing to kind of come out, and so the next thing that was new was something we did that was new, and kind of going down that road of shiny new bell and brand new thing going on. So there were different avenues to go and get wine, and there was different avenues to go and sit and have a bite to eat. But they'd been here a minute, and I think people were excited for the newness. Yeah. And we're so excited to be kind of part of that renaissance that Huntsville's going through. For sure. Growth, and I feel like it almost started in 2014. Yeah. And so, I have entrepreneurs that come over and say, I'm so excited you did this and you did that. It made me realize, like, I have a dream and I want to do this. Yeah. And made me realize I could do this. And I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I was just opening a wine shop, but has been really inspirational. And that's been amazing.
How much of when you first started going, how much was it of an educational element? Like how much did you actually have to start teaching the consumer about wine and like the different kinds of wine and the tasting notes, or did it just kind of organically happen?
I would definitely say pretty much everything we've done has been organic. Okay. We're lucky that they have, but I think it's a lot of us putting our ear to the ground, listening to people, talking to people, and trying to figure out what they want and giving it to them. However, there was definitely a learning curve. I never owned a restaurant prior to this. I never even worked in a restaurant prior to this. Matt he had worked in like comedy clubs and restaurants in DC and Maryland and New Jersey. So he had a little bit of background on the front of house.
And then his training element that he does now kind of fits well because he's been in those positions as an employee before.
Exactly. He's been a server.
Yeah.
Before he's been a manager before. So he knows their challenges and what they need to be. Not just successful, but happy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a big goal of ours is that people come to work happy. And I think it shows because I have a lot of people who will say, oh, I was at a restaurant and the server is great. Or, especially right around the pandemic, people were like, I love coming out to eat with y'all because everyone's happy.
Yeah.
And
they want to be there.
Yeah.
It's they're knowledgeable of their craft. They're knowledgeable of the menu. They know like, I think that's 99% of a good meal is the server and the experience. And I think that's what you've been able to craft and curate so well from all your different concepts. They're all very unique, but they all they still have that same feel. Yeah,
we are very good at immersive experiences. And I think that shows because I have also people say, oh man, I feel like, at Mazzara's, I feel like I could be in Charleston or Savannah. Yeah. Purveyor, I get a lot of Chicago, DC. The wine shops were designed to look like Northern California tasting rooms.
Okay.
Of course, Catacomb is our most immersive.
Yes.
That design thought was unearthed, and I wanted it to look like I knocked a hole in the wall, and I just found this bar.
Yeah. I mean, that's the perfect example. If you've never been there, that is the quintessential example of what this place looks like.
Yeah.
It is the most, it makes you forget that you're in Huntsville when you go there. Mm-hmm. It's just this whole nother experience. How do you, there's one thing to open up your first restaurant, never being in the restaurant industry. Opening one is tough enough. It's not easy. It's not. There's a lot of obstacles you're trying to learn. Most people will probably be okay with one. When did that itch and that desire to say, let's open up 2, 3, 4, 5, and keep on going? Like that is such a. Was that a switch that you think you always had, and it just had to be eventually got turned on, or do you think that was something that just as you had your ear to the ground, it just kind of was organically happened?
Again, I would definitely say organic. But. We opened up the wine shop in the end of September of 2014. Okay. And I would say in about 12 weeks, I had people asking like, wow. Oh, this is too small. You should open up something bigger, or you need to expand. And I was like, whoa.
I was like, I'm just now figuring this out. And I really still don't know.
Yeah. I'm like, whoa. I just want to own a little wine shop and drink some wine and maybe go on vacation once a year. Yeah. But I think that the city was so looking for that and eager and excited, and I think that excitement rubbed off on us a lot. Yeah. And so the next opportunity, we said no like 3 times, and finally they were like, why won't you just do this? And I was like, I don't want to expand too quickly. I want to get my feet underneath me. And they said, well, it's got to be built from scratch. Purveyor was a building that was built from scratch. It was like a parking lot before.
And you kind of had time to almost because I'm assuming by when they reached out, I was like saying to do something, you still had a little bit of a runway before it actually was opening.
Oh yeah. In fact, Purveyor didn't open until 2017.
Wow. And when were the first conversations about it?
I think if I look back, we incorporated in like 16, 15, maybe even 15.
Wow.
I remember incorporating almost 2 years before because of delays. That whole building actually took an extra year.
Wow.
We were like, okay, good.
So it gives us some time to breathe and figure this out. But that's a crazy long runway. And so from having the first wine shop on Church Street to then now having Purveyor, 2-3 years later to then, how long was it for your next concept? Was it a year later?
So, 2019 actually was the next concept.
Wow.
So on 14, 17, in 2019, we opened up Pour House.
Okay, yeah.
And we opened up Mazzara's at Stovehouse.
Yes.
So I was there for just a minute or so. And then in 2020, we opened up Sea Salt and Catacomb, which was the pandemic year, which is super interesting. Yeah. And Catacomb, we actually got our CO, our certificate of occupancy, on the day of the shutdown.
Really? Wow. So like you're so excited, you've created this immersive experience, and then you can't do anything with it. And the place is already like if you're listening or you're watching and you've never been. The space is not too much bigger than the studio we're recording in.
Oh yeah, 500 square feet.
Yeah, and it's that experience of being down there, that experience of having the password, having the call, having to go down and like not really knowing where you're at the moment. And then you open up this door and you're like, this is not at all what I expected.
No, that's crazy.
Yeah. And it's so at this point when we're recording this in March, how many concepts does Church Street family now have?
10.
10 concepts. Wow.
Yeah. So there's 2 in 20. And then in 2021, we opened up Mazara's at the Humphrey Rogers house.
Okay.
And I believe we opened up Providence Wine Shop in 21.
Okay. And then you opened up Little Mazzaro's in Athens.
Yes. Little Mazara's, the piano bar, and the test kitchen at the Orion were all in 2023.
So how to go, 3 years from the first concept to the second, and then in 1 year to open up 3. What are some things when opening up concepts now that are not necessarily that maybe are easier than when they first started, but what are some things maybe that are still unforeseen, like you just don't know how this is going to go?
Well, construction is always that piece of the puzzle. I got this piece out, it didn't come in. The contractor has time. They doesn't have time. I can do it now, but it'd be this price. Well, we'll wait.
Yeah.
And the rules change too.
Okay.
So sometimes you're like putting a permit in and they're like, oh, well, we've updated this process and now you have to do it like that. I'm like, wait, what?
It's like we just did this like last year. Like it shouldn't have changed that much. No, we just do this differently.
Sometimes it does. And you have to get, fingerprinted for, and so you get it done once, but you have to have it. They only last for so long.
Oh,
so
wow.
now I'm like, oh man, did they expire?
Wow.
I have to go do that again. And so those things take a long time. But as far as kind of what's funny, because I said to Matt, we were so tired. I said, he's like, I'm exhausted. I'm like, I'm exhausted. I don't know what's going on. And I was literally doing an interview and I was writing down all the dates of all the places. And I'm like, oh my gosh, a year is so long that I forget that we opened 3 in 1 year. And I said to him, you know what? I know why we're tired. We opened 3 restaurants in 1 year. What were we thinking? So I must have it down to a science.
Yeah, I guess
so.
It. Yeah. and the year was over and you're like, wait a second. I did that last year. Like 3 months ago, we were doing all this.
Yes.
And now you're just like, okay, this is a whole different world to be in. What does your day-to-day life look like doing this? Because I mean, obviously you can't be in 10 places at once. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to pick and choose, where your time is best needed. But then also I'm assuming as you've grown this, you have people in places that can kind of operate it autonomously, that you trust, and that they unlock, they lock the doors, they clean the kitchens, they do everything, and things just happen. How do you kind of delegate, and how do you kind of figure out, where is my time best spent today?
So you are 100% correct. We have amazing GMs in our restaurants that we trust and keep the trains running and making sure things are happening. Now we are popping in, we're checking in. We have weekly manager meetings every Tuesday. We meet with each of our GMs and we go over on a one-to-one basis. What's going on? What are your challenges? What equipment's not working? What's going on here? What's going on there? So we always have our thumb on the pulse because we are talking to them on a weekly basis, so we know what's going on in each of our restaurants. I do all of the marketing for Church Street Family, so I'm sitting with the GMs going, hey, okay, we're going to do music on Wednesdays on the patio and Purveyor starting in April. Sea Salt has music on Saturdays. Do you want to do a happy hour? We'll sit and we'll have a meeting about
and coordinating like who's playing and when they're playing and where they're playing and how long they're playing and is the weather should it be inside or outside or all of that?
And they kind of take care of a lot of that. Little logistics. I'll take care of. I actually just recently hired Allie Johnson with Artemis Music to help me coordinate all of the music that we do. Because we do so many, I think I have live music in every venue. So she's now helped me kind of coordinate. And so the GMs just know on Thursday at Mazara's live music's coming.
Got it.
And then I'll get a schedule. So I put it out on social media and that goes to the managers also. So they'll see their schedule. But
so that's sort of your weekly and daily thing is just kind of, doing those weekly meetings, having those check-in calls and kind of bouncing around to different locations as needed. Yeah.
And so like recently, I'm like, hey, those invoices, they go in. I have a little trouble. I have a IT staff as well.
Okay.
And so I'll say, hey, will you meet me over there? Let's train them on how to put this in through Toast and in our, Restaurant 365. And I'll say, okay, you guys are together. That's great. And I leave.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
You got that? Okay. But that's kind of coming out of those manager meetings of what their challenges are. And that's kind of filling that in. I also run our catering department, and we do have an entire separate catering that we do. And that I'm a little more hands-on because I deal with the customers on one-to-one. And
do y'all typically just cater for like big corporate events and parties, or do y'all do everything from weddings to you name it?
We do everything.
If you need it, you can do it.
100%.
Okay.
We have a dedicated chef just for catering, who's brand new. We're going to announce him at one of the festivals we're doing this year. I have a catering coordinator and manager. So she's doing great. So I do in-house catering as well. So if you're at Mazzeras and you're looking for a private space, we can do that. If you're at Purveyor and you're looking for a private space, we can do that. If you're at Purveyor looking for a larger space, our piano bar is our catering venue during the
Interesting.
piano bar. But I'm also a preferred caterer at all the venues in town. So I've done weddings, I do big corporate breakfasts, but I'll also do an 8 to 10 person dinner at someone's house.
Really?
Which is super fun.
That's super cool. Yeah. And
curated.
it's a unique, I honestly had no idea you even did that. Like that is like, it's a very unique thing that I think a lot of people potentially listening is like, I really want to do this thing, but it's easier. I have older parents or older grandparents. It's harder for them to get to a place, but they can get to our house.
Right.
And having this like huge, when we do anything with our family, there is, 15 to 20 people at all times. Like that is like, it's a birthday dinner. There's 15, 20 people going to be there for the reservation, and being able to have it in-house, I bet it's a unique experience that you kind of get to tailor it a little bit more to the actual consumer than you maybe get to do in other catering opportunities.
Yeah, and who doesn't want a private chef cooking for them at home?
Of course.
We can make that happen.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of bars. A lot of people are like, look, I just need a bartender. I need a bar. What can you do for me? And we work with them on that as well.
So do most people that like either want catering, want bartenders, want that private dinner, is like, do most people just reach out via y'all's website to kind of contact you, or what is sort of the best means to make that happen?
So you can actually go onto our website and fill out a contact form to say, hey, I've got a catering event coming up, or I got a party coming up. Or you can write to hello@churchstreetfamily.com. Or events at churchstreetfamily.com, Stephanie at churchstreetfamily.com. I get a lot that come to me because they just know my name.
Yeah.
But hello or events. So if you wanted events at churchstreetfamily.com, I look at it, my event coordinator looks at it. Okay. And those kind of get filtered down, then you get a phone call.
Perfect. Yeah. And we'll have all that information in episode notes. How I think it's just such a unique thing, like just to think about the restaurants here in town, the different things you have your hand on, the different, like there's a lot of things that are moving and shaking to make things possible. You're constantly there. I couldn't imagine trying to navigate all of that. What was it like going from, just managing the few employees you had at Church Street to now managing the size team you have? It sounds like, you have dozens, hundreds of people. What is that like to manage?
So it's all about team, right? So having a great GM who will sometimes be like, oh, I did this, and this. I'm like, you have one. You've just won. Concentrate on your one. Yeah. Make sure that the steps of service are being followed. Make sure the restaurant is clean. Making sure the kitchen has what they need from a food perspective. So if you think about it, I have a GM and an AGM, or assistant general manager, and that's their focus is on that one restaurant. And then they talk to us daily. And let us know kind of what's going on. In fact, I'll leave here and run over to Purveyor because I'm working on dishes with the chef today. And I got some catalogs, I got some samples. Let's see what works. So anything customer facing from a non-consumable is me. So I will work one-on-one with them. But then they know, okay, I know I got this, I got glasses. And then we also have a system like a Zendesk type system. And so they can put in a support ticket for anything they need from a purchase saying I need, so I have a distribution center is what I call it. It's a storage unit, but I keep all of my products in there. So they can put something and say, okay, this week I need this many rolls of toilet paper and I need this many water glasses and I'm out of hand soap. And it goes through and a ticket gets printed. And then I have a department that just looks at that. And if it's something new, I need a decanter, then it comes to me and I will approve it or not approve it before it gets purchased. Otherwise, they know exactly what to purchase.
This is a well-oiled machine. This is not something that just, gets built overnight. This is something that you've put years and years into, like, the processes and making sure that you have the people and places and the procedures in place that people know what they need to do and how to do it. So you kind of, like you said, it works autonomously. It's they know their role, they know their responsibilities, and you know what you're there to support them with, and vice versa.
And they know to get in touch with us if there is an issue.
Yeah.
If there's a Wi-Fi issue, if there's a POS issue, they contact IT, and they're fixing it within minutes. They're like right on top of it. If they need whatever it is they need, if there's an equipment issue, they're probably going to go to Matt.
Okay.
If there's an employee issue, 3 people called sick, and I didn't know that was going to happen when I gave 2 people off, and now I have 3 servers.
Yeah.
And so that's Matt also. So he'll go in and
Yeah.
be like, let's look at our reservations. We're not going to take walk-ins tonight. We're going to turn this off.
Yeah.
We're going to handle it. We'll be fine. I have some servers that work both at Mazara's and Purveyor,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
that'll help sometimes, and I can bounce people around.
Do most of your servers kind of take over just one location, or do you have a lot that do bounce between, because I mean, with the concepts you have downtown, I mean, there's 3 with 4 within just walking distance.
All on the same street.
Yeah. So, I mean, do a lot of them bounce around, or are they kind of like, they like this element of this concept better, so like it fits them, so like they like sea and salt better, and that's where they work, or do you see a lot of them bouncing around?
Nope. They stay at one place.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Now, I do have people that are at Mazara's who I think are at Purveyor's level, and we'll move them up.
Okay.
So then they can kind of go back and forth if I have a problem, just because they know the menus.
Yeah.
But that's the only people who are like, hey, do you want to go?
Interesting.
There? Yes. Or I have a bartender and they're like, Purveyor is very stressful. I'm like, well, let's talk about Poorhouse,
Yeah.
And so I get to really curate a job around somebody's skills and passions and kind of what works for them as well, which is really nice and fun. And same with people at Purveyor might be like, hey, I wouldn't mind trying out Catacomb. Well, let's do that. Let's see. Let's get you up to that level. So the fact that we have restaurants at different levels makes it easy and fun for us to be able to kind of move people around and start to feed their passions.
Yeah. And so I know that at the end of, I guess in 2023, y'all got a distinction being like some of the best restaurants here in Alabama. Talk a little bit about what that distinction was and kind of how that came about.
Perfect. So it's actually for the state. It's the Alabama Retail and Hospitality Association of Alabama awarded Matthew and I the Restaurateurs of the Year for the whole state of Alabama. So it's the restaurants from Mobile to Birmingham to Montgomery to, everywhere.
Wow.
And so we're really, really, really excited about that. And I say it's a team award, and I mean that. And I think just even talking with you today and saying, I don't cook the food. So sometimes we're like, man, that food was delicious. How did you make it? I'm like, I have
no idea.
Actually make the food.
That's not really kind of my role here.
Right. And then they'll say these drinks at Catacomb or at Purveyor, this was phenomenal. And you'll see our bartenders, they're making those drinks. So to become Restaurateur of the Year essentially is a team award because my chefs did amazing.
Yeah.
And the chefs of Church Street Family and the bartenders of Church Street Family are amazing.
Yeah.
And you don't get this without everyone.
Sure. Yeah, like everyone won the award.
Everyone won the award.
The award, even though it has y'all's name and it was just like it was given to y'all, it was given to Church Street Family.
Right.
And then all the concepts included under that. As 2024's a few months in, first quarter is almost over. Talk a little bit about, you highlighted a little bit of it a second ago, but a little bit about the festivals that you'll be doing at the Wicks Family Field.
Oh my gosh. So we're very, very, very excited to work with the Huntsville City Football Club to bring a stadium series event to Huntsville and kind of a play on the World Cup. We have 3 cup series, and it's the Wine Cup, the Beer Cup, and the Spirits Cup.
Okay.
And so the Wine Cup is April 6th, and it's going to be such a fun event. It'll not be on the field. You'll be kind of in the stands, and there's all those different places where you can gather.
Okay.
So we will have general admission and we will have VIP. So a VIP ticket will afford you to come in and taste wines, and there'll be over 100 wines there to taste. A little early, and then in the VIP we'll have reserve wines as well as introducing our new catering chef to Huntsville, which he's from Huntsville, so I think everyone will recognize his name when we say it. So we're excited about that. And then you're in general admission, of course you have those 100 wines, but we have 2 celebrity chefs from the Food Network who are going to be with us for a $25 add-on ticket. You get to go into the tents and meet these celebrity chefs and eat their food. They're going to be cooking there.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
We have Chef Kev D, and he's amazing. Kev DeChanis and Brian Duffy.
Okay.
And they've both been on the Food Network. They're celebrity chefs. They're cooking all over the place. And we're so excited that they'll be there. So 2 celebrity chefs in the general admission. We'll have live music. We will have a jazz trio with Josh Couts trio. So we're excited about that. So there'll be some live music. And yes, I know the question before everyone asks is, will there be beer? There will be beer.
Perfect.
So the stadium has a beer garden. The beer garden will be open.
Perfect.
And serving beer. So it's a huge wine festival with a little beer garden. And their concessions will be open, and their in-house chef will be making food, wine-centric food for you to available for purchase as well.
Wow. And so this is April 6th, and then you're doing the series. Is this series through April, or is the series April like each month?
So June 1st is the beer series, and October 12th is our spirit series.
Interesting.
So,
and I think that's like, I remember seeing, I don't know if it was like an AL.com article. It was some article that came out about this. Like it was maybe like last week, 2 weeks ago. It's been very, but like I would say if anyone's listening and they want to go, like I would highly recommend. I'm excited to go to this. Like I am looking forward to like now knowing a little bit more information about the events and kind of this series and being able to be a part of at the Wicks Field. I mean the stadium is amazing. And everything they're doing right there is going to be incredible for that part of town, and I can't wait for that.
Yeah, and I think it'll be a really good way if you haven't been to the field, or even if you have been to the field, to experience it.
Yeah.
And okay, there's where the concessions are. This is where the beer garden is. This is where I can sit and watch the game. And so I'm hoping it's kind of educational and people get super comfortable, because this Wicks Family Field and the football club is ours. It's Huntsville's, right? So we want people to feel really at home going there and comfortable and being like, oh, I know where that is.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping the festival kind of helps with that awareness as well.
Yeah. So this episode will be coming out like a week after we recorded this. And I know happening later this month, there's going to be some new wine that you're going to be getting that's like select few, like y'all were selected as the only one in the country, I believe.
Absolutely. So Matt and I, we probably don't promote it nearly as much as we should, but we bring wine into the state and into the country often. And so I think we are at about 50 wines that have been brought into the state that have never been in Alabama before, has been brought through Church Street Wine Shop. And so now we're kind of being recognized as such a great ambassador of wine. We've been doing it worldwide.
Okay.
And so we have already brought in 2 different wines from Australia in the last couple of years, Greenock and Grower's Touch, and they're doing phenomenal. They're wonderful lines of wines. We've brought in Township from South Africa, but what we're doing this month, and we have a press conference on March 20th to announce it, is even more amazing. These are amazing wines. Spear is the name of the company that owns these wines. They are huge. The wines are amazing. So there's 2 different lines of wines, which is hard to say.
Okay.
Lines of wines. One is called the Saltress, and the other one is Naledi.
Okay.
And so I have to look at that so I don't say it wrong. And as the press release would go, it says from the Cape to Church Street, and that's because these literally are from the Cape of South Africa.
That's such a, and I think that's a unique. I mean, it's such a crazy thing that you're able to do this, and it's in Huntsville. Yeah. Like it's not something that you have to go to these. You're not having to do this in Chicago. You're not going to New York. You're not going to LA. Like this is in Huntsville, Alabama. Like you're able to, and like you've kind of created this concept and this level of service that I think is, I guess obviously it's not seen throughout the whole state.
Yeah.
And you're able to kind of like be that leader in it. Are you looking at other examples of in bigger cities like I mentioned that are able to do this and how they go about it? Or are you just kind of trying to navigate it on your own and kind of figuring things out?
Oh, I definitely feel like I'm navigating it on my own because I have so many questions all the time. But it's to your point, we are beating out California for this. People are vying to do what we're doing. And we're on Zooms and chit-chatting and talking with these winemakers and these wineries. And they're like, well, it's Chicago, D.C., California, and Huntsville, Alabama. And we've been in that boat twice, and we have won both times. And I think, now this will be the 4th time. And I think it's because of our track record that people say, well, they've already done it. They've done it. They've been really good at it. We don't keep it exclusively either. Our entire goal is to be an ambassador to the United States. So finding a really good distributor who has as much belief in that wine as we do, and passion for that winery as we do, and then place it in their hands, and then they go with it. And it's next thing you know, it started in Huntsville, Alabama, and you now can walk into a restaurant in California and find it. And to think it started here, it's a big deal. It's amazing, and the wines are so good.
Yeah.
You know?
And it is such a, and I think that's one of my favorite things too, is like if you go to one of your restaurants and you have a really amazing bottle of wine for dinner, you can buy that bottle and go home with it too. It is that experience that, you know, it's not just a one-off. It's like there is sometimes like my wife and I will go to Mazara's and we'll have a bottle, and the server will remember us and they'll go, oh, we don't have that bottle, but there's this other blend or this other Pinot Noir that I think you'll really like, and we'll get it, and we're like, that's now our new favorite too. And like, so we'll take photos of all the wines to make sure that we can order it next time. And I think that is just like, it's that immersive experience like we mentioned earlier. It's like, it's people, they love to be there. They love the work they do. And they want to make sure that you have that experience, like that amazing experience at dinner. Yeah,
well, and I do talks on this sometimes that I think there's 3 things that you need to have a successful restaurant.
Okay.
And I take cleanliness off the table because that's a given.
Yeah.
Everything should always be clean and neat. So, and the top 3 are amazing food,
okay,
amazing service, and an amazing atmosphere.
Okay.
And so there's so many times that you've gone to a restaurant, I don't know, let's say you're on a road trip and it's a little shack and you're like, oh my God, am I going to go eat there? And it's the best seafood I've ever had. And so you're like, oh, wow. Regardless that I'm sitting in a little shack or whatever, my food's amazing. My service was great.
Yeah.
Now there's times where you're like, well, this place, the atmosphere is amazing. I always use an example. My sister-in-law came to visit us in California, and Dana Point was at the Ritz-Carlton, and she sat in front of this window that was from floor to ceiling and looking out the ocean. And she was like, I don't care if my food's terrible, my drinks never come, I'm never leaving this spot.
Wow.
And that's atmosphere, right? So you can have great atmosphere and maybe everything else suffers a little, but one can always pick up for the other. And so great food, and you're like, well, maybe sitting in a shack, but this is the best lobster roll I've ever had. And then service can always set something off. You know, there's people who come in a bad mood and we can just flip it like that.
Yeah.
They're expecting good food and they know where they made their reservation from an atmosphere, but that service can just take it, you know, right over the top. And so with those 3 things, if we concentrate on those 3 things, which we have amazing chefs, Matt's always working on kind of service. I work on atmosphere. If I was, you know, going to have to say, what's the one thing you think, this is it.
This is it.
Do these 3 things. Financial feasibility is important.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you have these 3 things, you know, I think you're going to be okay. And of course, marketing. How does a customer find you, right? Yeah. You have to market. That's great. You may have a really great price on your filet mignon, but if you're losing money on it, you're going to be out of business. Yeah. So there's lots of little pieces that go into it, but those are the 3 things I think from a customer service standpoint.
When you look at opening up a new restaurant or potentially doing a new concept, what is that? Is one of those 3 things the first thing you start working on? Is it the experience is the first thing you work on, or are you thinking more of like, what's the kind of food that I want to offer?
Definitely experience.
Okay.
You know, so a space may be brought to us, and I'll look at it and be like, well, what can I do here? What's the concept? Yeah. And other times I'm like, here's my concept. Where's the space? Yeah. And so those are the 2 things.
Trying to like balance those out and kind of like see, like, because I mean, I would assume there's tons of ideas and concepts that you have in mind. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of finding that canvas that can be best utilized for that concept.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then everything else kind of falls into place after that. So I have concepts kind of just sitting on a shelf, and every once in a while there'll be an opportunity and I'm like, oh, you know,
I should do that.
That's what I would do there.
Yeah.
Or this is what I would do there. And so it's, you know, and the other thing is people, you ever say no? We say no all the time. I swear there's a lot of no that comes out.
Sure.
I take a meeting. I always take a meeting. I'm always like interested in the opportunity, but the word no comes out more often than you'd think.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so if anyone's listening to this or watching this and they want to see all the names of the concepts you have, they want to see where all of them are located, they want to go visit, where's the best place to find you on social media and find out all the information?
So my recommendation is to go to www.churchstreetfamily.com.
Okay.
That lists every single one of our concepts. And then from there, you can click on any of our logos and go to the landing page for each one of those concepts.
Okay.
And it will actually tell you the hours, the attire, kind of what the vibe is, which you'll get from the website as well. Now, if you want to know what's going on in the family above and beyond that, you can also buy gift cards. We have e-gift cards on all of our websites. I would go to eventnorthalabama.com.
Okay.
So that is a Church Street family site, and it will tell you everywhere we're playing live music that month, that week, that day.
Wow.
It'll tell you about the wine dinners that we're doing, celebrity dinners that we're doing, our supper club, our wine club. It'll talk about the festivals. So anything and everything that's kind of happening within the family is at eventnorthalabama.com.
Perfect. And we'll have all of that information in the episode notes. So if you're listening or if you're watching, you can go to the description of the video. But yeah, I thank you for taking the time to sit down with me again today. It's been fun to have you back on after a few years. I think it's probably been 2 or 3 years since the first time you came on, which is crazy to think about. We'll probably have you on again in a couple of years to talk about what other new concepts you're doing. But thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was fun.